Hello and welcome back to another Pinnacle preview. Today we're going to be looking at Group A of ESL Pro League Season 17. And we're joined with AZR, Dennis, Hawka, and YouM3. So we've got a great group of guests here today. And I want to open this up because I know he's going to be a major talking point. You know, he's now officially the king of Katowice. Talking about JKS. So, AZR, what is it about JKS that has allowed him to slot into teams like FaZe and Complexity and now G2 and have such an immediate impact?
I think the main thing for Jocelyn, like since I've played with him now, is the main thing that he's like learnt upon himself is just to be more versatile. Like he used to be like a very passive player, usually wants to be like last alive, a bit baity, you know what I mean? Like very passive, and I used to get like a little bit angry with him because like he's so good mechanically and he used to like fail at doing the aggressive stuff. But after the time within like complexity and phase to where he is now, I think he's just had so much more experience with our teams and different roles, and I think that's made him the most versatile player that he is right now. So that's probably the biggest thing.
And do you think G2 will have continued success after Katowice? Do you think that's something that's going to happen as, you know, similar to what FaZe had last year, where they went on to win a few tournaments in a row, take the major? Do you think that's something that G2 can also continue to do?
Yeah, I definitely think so. I mean, I think when they first made the team, obviously it was a little bit rough, I would say, for them not making the major and stuff like that. But um, ever since they picked up their mental coach and actually swapped coaches with, I think it's Swanee now, their like ex-analyst to turn into the coaching role. I mean, they've looked unstoppable, right? So I would say they had mental issues in the past like month or so, 2 months or more than that now, whatever, since Dubai, that they've really worked on that and they've like gone past that like crucial barrier that they hit. And I think they'll just keep going on from there for sure.
Yeah, I think at the end of the year when they had that last event and they won it in Dubai, I think that was probably such a
Hmm.
big point for them to have be able to progress on as a team. So
Yeah, definitely.
is it safe to say, going towards everybody, that they are the favorite for this event and the favorite for the group?
Yeah, definitely. 100%.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, they made Katowice look like pretty easy for them, to be honest. Just losing the one map to Heroic and everything else, just like a walk in the park, to be honest. Yeah, they'd definitely be my favorites.
Yeah, they look really good right now.
Yeah. I think it has to be. The only thing with G2 that I'm like, it feels like they can't keep being this clutch, right? I've always felt like whenever I see teams win these crazy rounds, I feel like it shouldn't keep happening. But then I also feel like last year when FaZe were dominating, that's basically what they do every time. Like when it got to the most important round, they pull out some crazy random round out of nowhere. And I feel like G2 feel like that old FaZe team right now from last year, where they just have so many skilled players and just everything is going right for them. So they just randomly win like a couple of rounds that push them over the edge on every map.
I think
mean,
one of one of the
no,
cool
no, good, man.
things that would be is kind of interesting is that I don't think G2 look this good if they don't have such a massive failure in qualifying for the Rio major. Like that probably was like a massive wake up call for them because you know they were trading in-game leaders. They were going with I think a bit of a risky move by going with Hooksy. Like I personally thought that was a stopgap. Oh, we just need an in-game leader. We need someone to fill a fifth role kind of move for them because it felt like it was going to take way too long for them to find success. But I think without them failing at the major and without them having to put all that extra work into, you know, focusing on the Abu Dhabi finals, they probably don't see this resurgence because they probably had to go back to square one, and that probably helped build up what is now such like a scary side to face with. Because yeah, I mean, favorites for this year, I think so far they've shown exactly they are that team right now.
Yeah, for sure. About Hooksy, by the way, what do you think about him? Like, did you believe that they were gonna succeed the way they do right now, or were you a bit skeptical about it?
I think the cool thing about Hooksy is that almost immediately as he was bedded in, like we saw Monacy get better and we saw Nico take more initiative in rounds where I think the Alexi system was a bit like too slow moving almost for this team.
Yeah.
So it's nice, but I think with Hooksy's style of calling, I was surprised it didn't work better sooner. You know, it feels very loose and kind of let's see if you can work a pick on these angles and try and sort of open up bomb sites. But for them to stumble over the first hurdle I thought they might actually just remove Hooksy almost immediately. To be quite
Yeah, me
honest.
too. Me too. That's why I
Yeah.
asked. But I'm very impressed. Like I'm super impressed right
Yeah.
now.
Being two experienced IGLs, is it a difficult job trying to, put your AWPer in such a position? Because that's one of the main points that has come from Hooksy taking over. It's that he's enabled Monazy a lot better than anyone previously. How difficult is that to do?
I mean, when it comes to your AWPer, I don't think it's that hard, to be honest, because in my point of view, I just want my AWPer to have as much freedom as possible. I mean,
Yeah.
he's going to have the most impact. He's got the most expensive weapon in the game. I want him to just go nuts. I don't want to hold him back at all. I don't want him to have anything holding back. I want him to go this side, that side, go fucking get a kill, go the other side. Just keep moving around, do your thing. So, from my experience, I don't think it's that hard, to be honest. But
No, it's basically like that. You let the AWPer do whatever he wants. If he want to peek there, he goes there. If he want to play defensive, he does that. Anything he wants, he gets.
Exactly, yeah. You need a flash, bro? I got it for you,
Yeah. I can jump for you, bro.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh man, AWPers are spoiled.
Yeah, a bit.
And on the,
Actually, the thing I'll say quickly about Hooksy is he also actually has like some impact rounds individually now, which was the one thing I was always the less certain about. Like when he first joined the team, I was watching and genuinely the thought that was on my mind was, can they have a fragger this bad and be a top team?
Yeah.
And like he's improved so much in that sense.
Yeah, I saw the games as well. I was like, what the fuck is this?
Exactly.
Yeah, bro.
But
It was
then
like night and day, wasn't it? Fuck.
Yeah. He had like I don't know 220 stuff like that, and then you're like, what is this? What are they doing? But like after that, they just I don't know what happened, but they are really good. It's impressive.
he was very
Definitely.
quickly labeled as, ironically, as the Giga Chad, wasn't he, after his first
Yeah.
performances. And just on the topic of IGLs, you've got outsiders in this group, and Jame is notoriously known as one of the greatest minds in Counter-Strike. And I mean, from your experiences, how is that to play against? Like, what makes him so good?
You hate to play him, right? You know he's
I
there,
guess so, yeah.
but like his system, it works. I don't know why, but it works. You know he's there. You know how he plays, what he does, but he just makes it work, right? But
I
it's
think,
yeah. Go ahead.
One of the things about outsiders is that they actually started as this team that were just annoying and saved a lot and played really slow.
Yeah.
But if we look at the Rio run in isolation, like that was actually outsiders exploring a new side of themselves. Like they actually went for fast rounds. They went for rushes, which is kind of uncharacteristic of the sort of typical MO. And it'll be a bit of a stretch to say it was all a part of James' master plan. He set up this entire framework of never expect us in the first 40 seconds of a round. Then all of a sudden he starts adding those at one of the biggest events of the year, and everyone's caught off guard by a difference in play style. But yeah, one of the best minds in the game. I think that might even be a stretch, but he's definitely changed the way people perceive the economy in this. Like this guy is just the accountant of Counter-Strike. I think that he's been correctly labeled as such.
Yeah,
Yeah,
definitely.
not wrong at all.
Do
Not
you
wrong at
think
all.
that
Lost live all the time, saving and stuff. So, yeah, for sure.
Do you think he's like the changes that they made after the major? Do you think that that's the correct thing for them to have done? Do you think that it was that much of a fluke for them to have won the Rio major and coming into this?
I mean, I guess it's up to them. And like, we don't know stuff. Obviously, we're outside of the team. There's a reason why they've made it, but it's also hard to like, you just want a major, and it's like, why would you want to change? Like I couldn't see it, but obviously Jame and the coach, they obviously work and talk to each other, and obviously think it's the move going forward. And Kyron has shown that he's a young gun for sure. So I mean, it's just have to wait and see, I guess.
Yeah. He looks talented, so it could have been. I think it's a good choice, but we'll have to see. We don't know what's going on, right?
Yeah, it's great to see the amount of young talent that has been building up through the scene. Chiron's a big name, and yeah, do you think he can reach that star potential that they're gonna need?
Yeah, I think so. Definitely.
I mean, for me, I haven't seen enough yet, I guess. I mean, I only saw his Katowice performance. I mean, which he was pretty good. He's just like that aggressive player that's just going to run in and hit heads. You know, that's what every IGL wants for the young guns in the team to do. You know, they're just sharp and don't think and just go get kills. So time will tell. And obviously, he's working under some experienced players, Kai Kurt, James. So he's got everything going for him, to be honest, in that team for sure.
Yeah, and I'm sure a lot of the concern will come with, you know, experience and how will he perform on the stage. And I mean, they have to get to that point to see how that goes.
Yeah.
But yeah, Outsiders, you know, they are a very tough team to play against, and their first match is up against IHC. And IHC, they made a statement over at Katowice. You know, in the playing stage, they managed to take down Fura, denying them a spot there, and they made Cloud9 go out dead last. So my question about IHC is, what makes them so different from previous Asian teams that we've seen, like Tyloo and Vichy? Is it just a more disciplined style? Are they as chaotic as these previous teams we've seen? Like, why are they performing well?
For me, like just from experience, because I mean, I started in the APAC region wrestling all these Asian teams all the time. So, I mean, I think there's a huge difference in comparison. Like, just remembering like the stuff that Tyler used to do, just like pop 5 here, pop 5 there, run through every single smoke. You know, there was like literally no discipline whatsoever, and you'd sit there and you'd be fucking raging, but they just headshot you anyway, you know. But these guys from IHC, they're sharp as fuck, and they seem to play disciplined Counter Strike. Like, I'm actually really excited to see what they can do. They've just come onto the scene like recently in like the last 6 months to a year, whatever. But they've been like they've got results, and it's awesome to see, especially when they're in such an isolated region. So I'd like to see them like come out here for more boot camps into Europe and see what they can do in the future.
I think as well, the Asia region has struggled with a mixed identity because Tyloo were one of the breakout teams from that region. And so people sort of incorrectly stigmatize the Asia region as just being like just flash through a smoke or pop 5. So like that isn't actually how a lot of Asian teams structure themselves. They actually do try and mimic and add like complex layers. They've come up with like innovative strats on Mirage and the sort. But the problem is that none of those teams could actually beat Tyloo in a head-to-head sort of aim duel.
Exactly.
So,
yeah.
You know, you always had Rare Atom, or I guess Vichy at the time, sort of plugging away and playing a more structured style. IHC have just refined that. And I think the big thing for them was that at Katowice, they actually clutched up a lot. Like they had some really big rounds from players like Annihilation and Score, who typically when it comes to international contests, these guys actually go missing very frequently.
Okay.
Yeah, and they still have Techno, for example, is like 17, and he's been like this talent that they've been like slowly bringing up, and I still don't think he even hit like the level I want him to, because I think his aim looked really good. I don't think he performed as well as I would want. But you're definitely right. Like Annihilation in the clutch was just crazy. I think he had the most clutches in the play-in. And that was the other cool thing. They actually did not play with much fear when it got to those big moments against Cloud9. Like both of those maps were like 16-14s. And so many other teams I feel like would have crumbled. I saw other teams do it at this event, but they actually just looked so composed the whole time. And that's even without them having They have Bartak coming in instead of Cabal. I always thought Cabal was a pretty good player on this team. And honestly, Bartak did okay, but I feel like IHC could even be better in the future once they get that 5-man lineup back. So exciting times.
Yeah, it's true. Like when I think of them right now, IHC, like comparing it to like, you think of like, how do I say it? Like Tyloo or some sort of Asian communication where they're just yelling and going crazy, you know, when they're playing. The way that I look at IHC right now is they're just calm, like iron monks, just ready to play some CS. You know, they just look so composed, like you said. So, yeah.
Yeah, they look really sharp as well individually. Like they look as sharp as Tyloo pretty much, but they play more slow, and they use strats, and they use the map correctly, right? It's going to be very interesting to see them in the next event.
I think it's clear a lot of these smaller regions, they have the talent, they have the skill there. But is it fair to say that a lot of them lack the leadership capabilities of some of these teams that come out of Europe?
I think that's a problem that goes everywhere, pretty much. Not a lot of good leaders. And yeah, that's our biggest issue right now, especially in Sweden.
You know,
You try shopping around for in-game leaders. Like
Yeah,
you do have to dive quite. I mean, look at EG for example. They had to go to Neil instead of going into their own North American region, where it just doesn't seem like that even fits for a certain degree. Like they look better, but also it's a tough time, because even if you go with like an unproven in-game leader or someone that hasn't had that call up to like the big stages, you can maybe rely on them to bring a new structure, but will that even fit in tier 1 Counter-Strike is I guess the biggest issue. Like there was a big risk for Malz when they even went for Dexter, you know, like he had to adopt the European system, and Malz went through a rough period for a decent amount of time because of that as well.
Yeah, for sure. I mean,
it takes time to adapt.
Yeah, it's actually the same thing with like Aussie Counter-Strike right now. It's like you're saying that we lack leadership and stuff. And like back in the day, I remember, I think what helped us like get over the hurdle of like not, I guess, choking. This is back into like Renegades, 100 Ds or whatever. Us making over that hurdle was it was completely mental. Like we knew we had the skill and stuff like that to take on the best, but it was just purely mental. We get to the big games and like, oh shit, we're versing Fnatic. It's Dennis, you know, and then like it's just a huge mental barrier where it's like you just got to overcome that. But when you do, then you realize that you can play against these players and just do your thing and play Counter-Strike. So yeah,
definitely. Like the mental bit. My old team, like Fnatic, they always made fun of me because I never said that anyone else was better than me. Like even if they were, like they definitely were some better players, but I never said they were, because to me I had to believe that I were better than them to be able to play them, and it works for me. But I don't know. It's the mental bit is it's a heavy side in the Counter-Strike game, definitely.
for sure, definitely.
I feel like that's what's improving a lot of these teams to like the level they're on. You mentioned earlier G2 bringing in the mental coach, and you said that's what's progressed them. Do you think that's something that a lot of these teams are now focusing on? They're realizing the effects.
Yeah,
of the mental
definitely.
side of the game?
Yeah,
for
like
sure.
if you have bad mentality, you're not gonna win any games. That's just the way it is. You can win 1 game, 2 games, and then you're gonna choke.
Exactly.
Yeah, it has to be there, or you won't make it. And I think that's kind of what you know about G2. They have players like Nico. Like you can just watch him and see when he's a bit down, and that's dangerous, right? If he's in the zone and like super pumped, then he's gonna be insane. But as soon as he goes down, it's gonna be a tough time for the team. But as you can watch lately, I think he's like on top. So yeah,
for sure.
I think
everyone has to be here.
A lot of these top teams, they have players in that show a lot of emotion. I mean, you can see it in Heroic and Vitality with Cadian and Apex. They scream throughout the entire series. And like you say, Nico, clearly players that show emotion. And we previously, you mentioned EG, and they're a team that have been disappointing for the last year or maybe even 2 now. Do you think it's time for that team to, you know, cut its losses, move on?
They've pitched themselves into a corner. They've picked up so many teams in the North American region with the idea of having like this talent pipeline and developing these squads, but the squads below also don't compete that much internationally or even within their own region, because the main EG squad are taking a lot of those slots, and you can't have 2 teams in the same tournament very frequently unless you're Fragadelphia per chance. So there's unfortunately, it feels like they've had mixed signals from day one. You know, I think Kassad had this wager going on about whoever removed them, stop them from getting to the ARP, give them a $1,000 bounty. And I don't even know if Kassad was happy or sad that actually happened, because it's disappointing for the EG guys. And I don't think anybody wishes ill will on the players. It just seems like there's a lot of attention being drawn to EG right now because of the way this organization seems to be managed from a top-down perspective. Their strategy for the pipeline doesn't really make a lot of sense in terms of like competing with these. Like if they wanted these guys to progress, they might actually just allow them out into the wilderness so that they could play all of these events where EG themselves are participant in. So it's I want to say that you just give this roster more time, because I feel like the pieces actually look all right. Like I like Hext. I feel like Nealon has actually brought a new look to this squad. I think Breeze is finding some extra form, which is quite nice. there are signs there. Like I think Automatic started really well with this roster, but now is also, I think, at a couple of events started to drop off a little bit. So I don't know if he's sort of running out of gas in the tank or he's running on the reserves. But I like the pieces on this EG roster enough that I'm willing to give it time. It just feels like there needs to be more of a focus on the main squad instead of the pipeline.
Yeah, like it's like, as you say, they need more time, right? I think people are judging them a bit too much. Like there was some, I don't know who it was, but they made some statement when did they beat someone or were they close to beating?
Heroic.
Yeah. And then,
Yeah.
oh my God, they should never have done that. But like, it's not, I believe they have a good squad and we should give them some time. They could become very good. They have the players, definitely.
I feel like the thing that sucks about the whole management thing is like when I'm looking at sports, for example, and I look at like good managers, I remember when like, you know, Jose Mourinho would basically take the pressure off the players by saying, hey, it's like, it's all on me. Like I'm the one that's going to take the blame either way. What the management have done here is they've put all the pressure on the players by coming
Yeah.
out and saying, look at us, we're
100%.
great. We've got this pipeline going. And now the players are like losing games and it's just going to continue to affect them because it keeps on snowballing onto them. And now it's like really hard to know what to do because I don't know how you turn it round because the mood cannot be good right now. Like it's just mentally slowly gone down and down for them. It almost feels like they're going to have to make like a big change just to feel like they've made a change to like get something new on the team because it just feels so bad right now. And yeah, I just feel bad for some of the newer players because like for guys like Wiz and Hext, this is their big opportunity to prove themselves. And I feel like they're getting screwed over basically.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, like you were saying before, I think who was it actually that said the comment about her? Was it the gamer doc or something like that? She came out and
I
just
think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
I can't imagine the amount of like Wiz and Hex. I'm not sure how old they are. I'm assuming they're both under 20 years old. And then for her to come out and say that stuff and then them get hammered and then I can't imagine the amount of pressure that they're under right now. Like regardless of like the whole team, like those two especially, like I don't know, mentally it's just fucked. I reckon. Like yeah, I just don't believe in him whatsoever at all. But with it, in regards to the team, like I don't know, the way that I look at it, EG is a huge organization, right? Like you always, when you think of EG, you think of one of the best teams, or like whatever to come into Counter Strike. You expect them to be a top 5 team, but I don't know. Do you think they haven't had enough time? Like I feel like they should be branching out to maybe something else, but I'm not sure to be honest.
Yeah, I believe for them to come back into what they should be, they need a really good run this tournament. Like if they don't, I don't know what's gonna happen. Perhaps a change. They are so low right now, right? Because of all the pressure.
Yeah.
It's like as a player with too much pressure, you're just gonna, it doesn't work. So they need to have a good run or they're gonna make a change.
And I think this could actually be a good event for them to do so. Like if they get out of this group by some miracle, like this is a pretty tough group. But if they somehow get out of this group, there's a lot of teams that are actually fielding incomplete rosters, you know, using substitutes. This is actually, I think, a good time to strike because, you know, we've undergone a meta shift, whether people want to acknowledge it or not. You know, the A1S being thrown down as much as it has affected T-side rounds significantly. We're starting to see T-sides win more often than not, actually having an edge on almost every map now. So to see that affects the meta it's kind of an unstable time. Like even if we talk about G2 looking like the best team right now, I think there is also a caveat where the more these teams play this meta, the more they'll understand what to expect from their T sides and how much emphasis to put on there and the sort of pressures that are applied. Because I think there's still a bit of a slow adoption or a shift in mindset towards, yeah, the CT side is still supposed to be like the advantage side, but I think the stats are going to back the other way around, especially with Anubis, new map as well. Like there's a whole series of upsets that could happen on that map in terms of instability or new ideas that could be found as these events go on.
Do you think that, I mean, their first match is up against Cloud9, and Cloud9 has some of the best players in the world, in the likes of AZR and Shiro. But they're also a team that we saw didn't give the best performances at Katowice. Is this a good chance for EG to try and break a team that's struggling? Or do you think Cloud9 are just going to do what they do and they come into this event like nothing happened in the previous one.
Yeah, it's never easy to play Cloud9, like with Shiro and Hobbit, Exile. But as you said, they just got Booster back, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, but it's not gonna be easy. But they can do it. But I think they're gonna lose the first one, and then they have a chance in lower bracket because they're gonna play like perhaps it's Eternal Fire maybe if G2 does what they should do. So yeah, I think lower bracket is the way to go here.
Yeah, it's tough because even though Cloud9's form was not good at Kato, like they were bad, just the floor of that team when you have Shiro and Axile and, you know, Hobbit when he shows up, like just those players alone will win you enough rounds probably. Although, I mean, if we want to get onto Cloud9, the Buster move, based on what I saw at Katowice, has not made sense. They've just put Buster into Inter's positions mostly. And Buster, I don't think when he was at his best was that kind of player. I don't think he was like anchoring bomb sites and doing all this like lurky stuff. They've changed a couple of things, but he looked really uncomfortable in a lot of those rounds. Like I remember him anchoring Beyond Mirage and just getting run over round after round. So I feel like that move has not shown us anything yet. I'm hoping it's just that it was the first tournament and he's slowly going to adapt. But it feels like they made that move because they feel like they wanted to make a move. And I don't think that move's going to do anything for them, to be honest.
I think Cloud9's an interesting case study because it seemed like they had a structure that worked for the online period quite well. You know, I think Hobbit even talked about it on the, I want to say the Rio desk, where they qualified, and he was talking about how their structure is based around like 3 pillars. So, you know, you'd have Axile one side, you'd have Shiro another side, you'd have Hobbit, and they'd all sort of interchange information, and then they'd make an assessment of where to go. It feels like people Mun maybe didn't even catch that interview, but you know, some of Cloud9's shortfalls aren't actually, I don't think, all fixated on Nafany. You know, he takes the brunt of it because he's the in-game leader. He gets the final say. He probably is the one that makes the overall assessment. But sometimes these rounds are breaking down before they even get started for Cloud9, and I think that's maybe one of the issues is that their reliance on being given space and being respected isn't happening as much with the current form that they're in. But I do think that Cloud9 are just will probably win a matchup against EG. They just, I'm getting sick and tired of listening to Nafany in these interviews where he just doesn't seem like anything in the past has affected. Like, oh well, you know, this is just another LAN. We're gonna play our game and we're gonna win it. It doesn't feel like any of that. He's projecting any of that pressure, but the more you puff out your chest, the more it feels like you are just trying to fake yourself out and think, oh yeah. This is just like our online games. We are just going to play our game and win. and that clearly has been actually falling off of a cliff instead.
It's actually like he's just playing like a video game with dialogue options and he's just pressing the same option every time, every interview. He's like, yeah, yeah, we're still good, guys. We're fine.
Well, yeah, I mean, back in the online period, they were a pretty dominant team, right? And since they've come to LAN, obviously they're not as consistent. But it seems to be like they're going like downhill, to be honest, like constantly. It's not like there's no consistency out like straight or up or anything. It's just constantly downhill. And I mean, in the online era, like one thing that made them so consistent was like Nafany just strafing everywhere and just going nuts with his aggressive peaks, but they just don't work on LAN. And I mean, I haven't watched enough Cloud9 recently to see it all, but I'm assuming that's got stuff to do with it, to be honest. There's like, yeah.
You saw some of these Kato rounds, man. He was like sitting inside of smokes, looking the wrong direction. And like,
oh, really?
He actually did look like he was trying too hard to try to play style work sometimes.
Yeah, that could be an issue, actually. Like, if you try too hard, like I used to play a lot in front, like entry fragger, and I did a lot of stupid shit as well. And if you try too hard, it's not gonna work out. But as you said, I think for Cloud9, this event is super important as well. But this move with Buster, I don't know. It's weird, but also it was like he hasn't played in a long time, right? It was long ago. He played in Kato, but before that it was like a year ago. I don't know. So I think we have to.
Long now?
Yeah, I think so. I'm not sure, but yeah. It's been a long time at least. So I think
you got to give him some time, I guess.
Yeah, a bit of time because he can play. He's been in the top for a long time. He's a good player, but yeah, we'll have to see. But this event is also very important for Cloud9, definitely.
It was a lot of talk around the move. You know, was it the correct decision to drop Inters? Because he's been a phenomenal support player for them. And a lot of the talk as well comes back to, is it a playstyle change that's needed rather than a roster move? How do you guys feel about that?
Yeah, that
Yeah.
I was trying to figure out, like, why did they make the move? Did they make a statement? Did they do anything? Do we know anything about why they did it, or is it just, yeah, we did it?
That's a
Shrouded
good
in
question,
secrecy.
actually.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, because like whenever I would watch Inters in the positions he played, it's like it feels like your job is just survive as long as you can. Normally you're playing on the complete opposite side of the map. Like I thought he was doing basically exactly what you would want him to do. If you're the in-game leader and that's how you have the team set up, I don't see how you could have wanted much more from him, really.
No, that's
So,
the
I
weird
don't know.
part, right?
Yeah.
But
It's hard to
maybe
say, right?
I guess
hard
the
to
thing
say,
I'd
just
like
oh, sorry,
is
you go.
that like no, just quickly, like if this doesn't work now, I feel like you almost have to look at the leadership. Like I don't know, where else would you look? Because you're not looking at Shiro or Axile. I don't think you're looking at Hobbit. I think he's pretty solid. Honestly, I feel like if this doesn't work, maybe it is time to switch things up because I don't see what else the reason would be.
Yeah, for sure. Back on the Inters topic, I was gonna say, like, obviously we don't know what's going on in the team or whatever and why they replaced him, but like for me in the past, when you've got like your support player on the team, and if they're not like willing to get out of their comfort zone, then it's also hard to have them evolve as a player. So say if you've got Inters playing B Mirage and he's just jump spotting every single round, the team knows exactly what you're doing and it just becomes readable. And it's like you have to switch it up. You got to be aggressive. You got to go get some info or something like that. I can take an example for Justin right now in G2. Like he's the A anchor on Mirage on CT, and the player that he was now compared to what he was 2 years ago is like night and day. Like he would just love to play on default or just like play on just on site all the time. But now you see him always going to push ramp, getting the info for the team, so the whole team can like go towards mid and B and stuff like that. Like the outside wing players can get so much info, just like making like just stop being so passive, you know? Like yeah. I don't know.
Yeah, no, definitely you're right. Like when I think about Mirage and I think about JKS, default shadow all the
Yeah,
time.
exactly.
But like
Yeah, exactly.
if you play more aggressive, if you really like communicate, okay, I'm gonna push ramp, guys, be ready to rotate, like, or whatever. If you call the rotation beforehand and just make a move, you get so much information, especially on Mirage.
Exactly.
I know, like back in the days, Astralis, they used to, when they played CT, they made a move every CT round. They never play default, always
Staying
make
active.
a move.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They dropped
feel like that's-
underground, everything, just made moves all the time.
Yeah. And I feel like that's definitely what's coming into meta now with like Heroic and their CT sides. They've almost taken that to an extreme sometimes where they're going for these crazy like stack information
it bites
plays
them
and
in
like
the
it's
ass
so fun
sometimes,
to
though.
watch. Yeah.
Just like watching some of them like go real aggressive. Like in the final against G2, I remember them just pushing Banana and Hunter kills 2 with the Tech 9 or something like that. I'm like, fucking hell, man. You go for your info, bro, but fucking hell, you guys gotta like, hold back a little bit sometimes, you know. But
I'm glad I'm not a Heroic fan watching that. As you say in England, it's squeaky bum time whenever that happens. I'd be nervous the entire time. So yeah, but we're in this era, aren't we now, where you have to adapt and you can't just play a default on a CT side. That isn't the way to go. And you know, it becomes even harder then on the T side to actually take these sites when the CT are constantly adapting to what you're doing. You know, it's just a constant game of movement. And from my perspective, C9 haven't really been able to change that playstyle to adapt to what's happening. And you know, the Nafany, you know, like you say, Nafany's going to get a lot of the slack for it, and only time will tell if they can do it. But they have EG in the first round.
Yeah, that should be a
warm-up game.
Yeah, exactly.
Be nice. Yeah, it's not Na'Vi in the first round like they had at Katowice. So, but yeah, it'll be
To be
much
fair,
nicer.
EG have got to fly back from America, haven't they? I assume so. That's not going to be fun. They're not going to have much time to get ready, are they?
No,
That's true. That's true.
Be like
It's tough.
the Ent situation at the CCT. So
And I hope EG
Yeah,
prove
yeah.
people wrong, but yeah, I think they'll get smacked by Cloud9, to be honest.
yeah, I believe they're kind of low right now. They need a They need a win or 2 in a row so they can.
They need some.
have-
They need some confidence boosters,
Yeah,
man.
yeah,
They need
definitely.
something,
Like
bro. Just
they have good players, right? They have players that should be able to win games by themselves, pretty much. So yeah, they just
It's
need
been
a
a
good
sad
run.
fall from grace for a lot of their players. You know, they were constantly a top 4 team. You know, I mean, years
Oh.
back now, and I think the online period really did affect them. You know, you saw the decline in Cirque. Breeze hasn't been at the form, and people, you know, Automatic came in, and people expected a lot out of him. And I just don't think yet we're at that point where many of these players have delivered what they need to do. So
Listen, as much as I would maybe hope for these EG players to have some success and boost their confidence, and so if they do beat Cloud9, people are going to be yelling to the hills for this team to make another move, and it might be minus Buster, might be minus Nafni. I don't know what they're going to ask for. Hell, they just want people to save Shiro, Hobbit, and Axile from what is this perpetual darkness they've seemed to have found themselves in event to event.
But like honestly, with Shiro, with that 3-man, those 3 guys, they should be able to win games anyways. Like they're really good. Shiro is he can be super aggressive. He can do that part himself. So yeah, we'll have to see. But I think they're gonna take the first game.
for sure.
I think that's.
But I kind of hope that the EG does, because I like watching. Like Breeze is one of my favorite players, or used to be at least. I guess he still is. When he's on fire, he's so much fun to watch.
It's a bit sad to see his form drop off a little bit, because like you're saying, like a few years ago, back in 2019, 2020, huge fan of Breeze. Like the guy's a fucking absolute rock. He, like 3 people come at him, 3 headshots. You know.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
It's crazy to see like what he's turned into in the team right now, and I still believe he's got it in him. To be honest, it's just. I don't know. Confidence, whatever. Like you never know what it is, what the case is, right? But yeah, I definitely want him to do better.
It's crazy because when you know you used to have the fantasy stuff come out, and Breeze and Cirque, they were top picks for anyone around that time, and he's kind of thinking, well, what's actually happened there? You know, but another team that possibly could be a contender. I mean, I think we're all very much doubtful since their first matches against G2, but Eternal Fire, they've just come off the back of a win at the CCT.
Ooh, yeah.
How do you feel about those guys?
Santares. He has the potential to be one of the best players in the world. For me, he's one of the best riders in the world, but he's stuck in teams where he can't like deliver, right? Imagine Santares in like G2 phase. What can he do? He's insane. He's literally insane. He's super good mechanically. Best aim in, I don't know. He's insane. That's it.
He's always been that player, hasn't he? Like for the last 5-6 years, just such good aim, just so solid also. And like the teams that he's been in now is like big, and now he's in the Eternal Fire team. Like you think he can definitely go the extra step and play for a tier 1 team, right? And get those like playoff places, go for the top spot, you know. But Eternal Fire themselves, I mean, they just come off the win. Was it yesterday in the I can't remember what the cup was called in Malta, but I mean that's got to be good for them heading into the RMR for sure. It's good confidence on that, and like granted they won some stupid 1v3 ninja defuse round or something like that, which is ridiculous, but they seem to be on an upswing right now, which is good to see from the Turkish guys. Happy for especially for Major. He's always been very passionate for the French Turkish scene, whatever you want to call it, and I hope they keep moving up.
Yeah, I actually think that's a huge thing for them. This team, for the longest time, I don't think they knew what on earth they were doing with like roster moves, in-game leader changes. Woxic's the in-game leader now someone else is the in-game leader. Like Majors just come in, and I think they look like a team again. Because if you just literally, I'm looking at their Liquipedia right now. They had like, oh, Calix has gone inactive for like 2 months, and now he's back on the team. And now this guy's on the team. And it was like, okay, can we just have a 5-man roster for a bit and just chill and just try and like have some structure and something makes sense on this team? And I feel like they've done that for the last 3 months. Since they got Major back, they finally seem chill. I'm surprised it's without Woxic, but if that's what it needed for this team to work, that's fine. Like maybe there were personality clashes. I don't know. But they seem like so much better now. This team just seems to make sense. And finally, there's just some consistency on this roster, because my God, I don't know what they were doing towards the end of last year. But hey, they figured it out. And yeah, like Xantares just by himself is going to win you games sometimes. So
Yeah,
that's always
yeah.
nice.
Xantares big, bro. You can't stop
I
him.
saw
man.
Yumi's
No,
face twinge a
you
little
can't,
when,
you can't.
when you said about Woxic there. And just on what you were saying before we go to Yumi on that, the Wikipedia page, I wrote an article recently about this group, and it's 8 of the 12 months of last year they made a change. Whether that was
Oh, shit.
having a
7
player
months,
swap
they're
in,
like,
Holy
"Ugh."
shit.
yeah. So whether that was a new player in or they were changing a current player for a player they previously had, but I didn't have any hopes for them going into the CCT, just because of that stat. Like, how do you keep consistency there? But yeah, Yumi, we spoke about this just before we started recording about Woxic.
Yeah,
Yeah.
probably the best thing that happened to Eternal Fire is that Woxic left, because I almost feel like there was some sort of internal House of Cards politics scenario going on where, you know, it didn't get on with some players and didn't like how they played. And listen, this Eternal Fire roster literally tried every single one of their players to be the in-game leader, and then they tried to get in like Major and Paz, I think it's like a combo duo, to bring them back into form, and then it still didn't work. So for I think the long term, it's not looking good for Eternal Fire, because I still think they need like a top level AWPer on this side, and
Yeah,
there's nobody
Woxic.
that can really fill that role. And God, if they have to go back to Woxic, I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm ready to see Eternal Fire back and not winning anything. But it was cool, because on the desk after that game happened, I think they actually brought up the fact that like this core of Major, Calix, and Xantares haven't won anything since like 2018, like DreamHack Open Austin, in terms of like substantial events. You know, they won like qualifying cups and the sort. So if they can break past a mental barrier, like they could take some upset wins here, sure. But I think down the stretch, they still do need an AWPer. And I don't know who you even shop around for in the Turkish scene if you are going to go for an AWPer. Like, a lot of teams are moving international because their local scenes can't facilitate the requirements of what their teams need.
True. I agree. But they need Woxic. In the future, they're going to get him again.
I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, but
Yumi's pulling his hair out.
It's like you say, like they did the change for a reason, and it should be like reasons that we should not know. Like perhaps they don't clash, right? So, but I believe if they want to continue, as you say, and if they're gonna develop, they need a good AWPer, and Woxic is the only choice, right?
Yeah, probably.
But like,
I hate it, but
yeah,
probably,
I know,
you're
I know.
right.
It's hesitation there, but he has to
Yeah,
agree.
yeah, but like there's no one
Very much
else
so.
in that scene.
Yeah, it's a very sparse scene, isn't it, in terms of that. And the final match we have in this group is Fnatic against MIBR. And MIBR, I mean, it seems to me on these lower tier teams in Brazil that there seems to be a roster change every 3 weeks. There's a team,
Yeah.
you know, players are moving from MIBR to Pain, you know, from Pain to Fluxo, Double O Nation are picking up new players. It just seems it's all over the place over there. So I mean, it's tough for me to even say off the top of my head who plays for MIBR at the minute, other than, you know, the likes of Henny. I think Sevi's on that roster. He's an interesting talent. But Fnatic, do you think that this is a good matchup for Fnatic? Do you think this is going to be one of the tougher ones? They seem to have come up a lot since they've formed and they put Mezzi under the helm of the IGL.
I think they look good. Like
Yeah.
they lost to complexity, right? But I think they look good overall, and I think there's no need to like count them out. I think they're gonna perform well.
Yeah, I'm the same. Like, since they made that roster, I've been quite a big fan of Fnatic, to be honest. Mezzi seems to be coming into his own as an IGL. The players seem to be meshing well. They obviously had a hiccup at Katowice, but I mean, I don't think that's anything to worry about too, especially at the start of the year. And I think they're just, I hope for them they just keep going up, because I like watching them. I like how they play Counter-Strike. It's very methodical, and yeah, I hope they do good.
Yeah.
They've got
definitely.
got a lot of talent in that team that you know, looks like it can progress really far into the future. But someone that has stuck around on the Fnatic roster, I mean, if we don't count the time with Godsend and back and forth, but KRIMZ has been someone on that team for such a long time. And I want to put this to you, Dennis. Like, what makes him such a crucial piece to that Fnatic system, and how has he been able to stay at such a consistent level for so long?
it's a tough question, right? But like I believe it's the role he plays. He's the anchor of sides. Like he's a stone, he's a rock, right? And he just does it very well. He plays it his own way. Like if you come to his site, he tells you what to do. He knows what he has to do to be able to deliver, and he just keeps doing that. He plays the same positions pretty much as he did when we played together. Like he plays connection right on Mirage, for example. He plays around jungle. You know, he knows what to do, and he has done it for such a long time, and he's comfortable doing it. So yeah, I guess that's it pretty much. It's I don't know. It's the only reasons I can think of.
I mean, that's what I think of KRIMZ when I think of him, right?
Yeah.
Just an absolute rock. Like you come to him, he's gonna get multi kills. Like
Yeah.
we used to call Justin a mini KRIMZ back in the day, like when Chad used to play and stuff like that. Mini KRIMZ because they had a similar play style, and it's like they both have like, well, KRIMZ, I'm assuming he's the same. Like they're just ice in their veins, just very calm, and like that calm aim is just not going to fail too when they're in the situation. When they're getting flash, smoke's coming down, they're just very consistent. So that's what I see of KRIMZ anyway.
Yeah, like as you said, you don't see KRIMZ choke a frag.
Yeah.
He doesn't choke. If he has his aim on you, he gets the kill, right? And that's huge. And as you say as well, like multi kills, no problem. They come up a connection, he kills too, and yeah, that's a pretty good outcome.
Yeah.
I've also, I feel like when I watch this team, I definitely notice when they're having like a bad run in a map, or they're like losing a few rounds in a row. Like normally it is KRIMZ who will come up with a round where it might not be even like flashy. He might just get like 2 important kills or something that like helps turn things around, because he is the most experienced player on the team. But the thing I want from this team is I kind of want like a really clear star player. I think it's maybe Roy who needs to be that for the squad, because he's got like very, very good aim, very good as an aggressive player. But like they're a really well-rounded team. Mezzy as an in-game leader is one of the best. He might be the best fragging in-game leader, honestly. Like fragging wise, he's incredible.
Yeah,
But it just feels like they don't have like a go-to guy, which I feel like a lot of other teams have, you know?
But I think they're not that new, but like I think it's gonna come with time, right?
Yeah.
So, but what was I going to say? Fuck. Oh, sorry.
Is it about Mezzy fragging IGL?
Nah, yeah, that's true as well. He's definitely the best fragging IGL right now. No, it was about KRIMZ. Yeah, about KRIMZ. As you said before, like when if they lose a few rounds, he makes a move and he kills maybe two. Yeah. Back in the days when we used to play, it was like if we had a bad start, or if we were choking, then he actually just said, okay, let's do this. He was coming up with a plan that usually worked. So he's that kind of player as well. So he's important for like every team. People need, and also like back in the days when people played a bit more fearless and people were doing stupid shit all the time, he was one of the players who he could get 1 or 2 kills and then fall back. I never did that. I just kept going.
Keep going, bro.
Yeah, all the way, all the way. But he actually fell back. So yeah, he's just a good player. Like
It's very disciplined, I guess.
Yeah, ice in the veins.
I think what's cool for this Fnatic roster though is that like Mezzy can rely on KRIMZ to be another voice within this team, and he can also rely on Nikodos and Roy because of their experience on the Copenhagen Flames roster, where if they need ideas happening in the round, you know, KRIMZ can come up with an idea with what they did on previous versions of Fnatic. Nikodos or Roy can work together to work their own picks. I think the real odd one out here is Fasher, who came from a system and a team that seems so reliant on like playing off angles and trading each other on CT sides in particular, that it's almost impossible to replicate on other teams, because it's such a niche and a style that is pretty risk oriented that it almost won't work at this level of play. And I think he's probably the one player that I'm the most iffy about on this roster, because he can hit some really nice highs. He can get some good form, but when he's out of touch or sort of off rhythm with the game, it feels like he is a massive sore spot for this Fnatic roster. But I imagine, like we're sort of saying, like with more time, they'll find ways of bedding him in and making it so that he can actually have comfortable duels where it's less about him being crisp mechanically. Because I think this team does rely a little bit on some crisp mechanics to make this sort of style work. But in due course, the strategy should hopefully take over and take some of the spotlight to a certain degree.
Yeah. Like when he joined Fnatic, he looked a bit more sharp, right? But perhaps that's I don't know. Perhaps he adapted fast, and now he's kind of going back a bit. I don't know, but like I think he has potential, and he looked really sharp in the beginning. Let's just hope that he can get that back, kind of.
Mate, if you look up some of his highlights, his raw aim, I think Fasha's raw aim is nuts. Like I definitely think in the future, like, we're gonna see him. I just wonder whether he's, maybe he's just not fully comfortable in the team. It's hard to know.
Yeah. It's sometimes it's super easy in the beginning, and then it gets harder, and like then perhaps they did a change in the tactics or whatever, or just maybe he just had like 1 or 2 bad events, because in the beginning he was sharp. Perhaps he's sharp now as well. We'll have to see, but he looked good before, so yeah.
Just to round out this episode, 4 teams qualify from each of these groups. I want to get your guys' takes. Who are the 4 teams that are going to qualify? Are you going to be in agreement here? Are we agreeing on G2? G2
Yeah.
and Cloud9?
That's the easy one, mate. That's the easy one.
Cloud9? Can we agree on those?
Who else is
are we hesitant on Cloud9?
I mean, it should be G2, Cloud9, Fnatic, Outsiders, surely. Like, those are pretty solid favorites, I think.
Yeah, but like, can they face each other? Yeah, Fnatic and Outsiders can face each other, right?
Yeah,
lose.
I guess a couple of teams will have to go lower bracket, but
and then after the lower bracket, there's a last chance stage. It's quite
Okay,
a big giving tournament in terms of who can qualify to playoffs, because the playoff bracket is huge.
I'm gonna say Outsiders, Fnatic, Cloud9, and G2.
That feels pretty safe. It feels pretty hard to pick. Like, I don't know if who would be like the
I want to put IHC in there. Like, I really hope they do
I do a
well.
little bit too. I do a little bit also, to be honest.
I hope they do well. I hope they go
dark horse,
through.
right?
Yeah, they would be my dark horse for this group, I think.
I just feel like that's like the APAC. Like I watch a lot of ACS as well. I feel like I'm just huffing copium there, because one good event versus 2 teams that have.
Come on, boys!
You can do it. I hope you do. But the Katowice wins, we have to put into context, like they beat South American teams, and they beat Furia and Cloud9, who are both in very similar positions, where the in-game leader is, I think, at the crux of the issues, or like the game plan or the structure seems to be missing. And I almost feel like both those teams underestimated IHC. I don't think coming into this group stage, any of these teams are going to underestimate IHC. They're going to prep for them, and they're going to make it as uncomfortable as humanly possible for these guys. They put a target on their back already.
Yes, sir. They won't be so underestimated this time for sure.
Nope.
That's always been like the classic thing with Asian teams, right? In the past, where they haven't played anything overseas and they come to an event, they just surprise everyone with their play style. But yeah, you're probably right. I'll stick to the copium. I'm hoping for them.
We'll hope for them. We'll stick with the safe option. We'll say Outsiders, G2, Cloud9, and Fnatic. I think that's a safe bet for anybody. But yeah, is there anything else you guys want to add on to this group? Or are we happy there?
We're happy, but it's a lot of good teams, and it's gonna be fun to see if they, like we said, Cloud9, Eternal Fire, these teams. Let's see what they can do.
Yeah, it's extremely tough, especially since G2 and Cloud9 fall on that same side of the bracket. You know, if they both win their opening match, one of them's going lower bracket here. So yeah, it's going to be interesting for sure. But this has been our Group A preview. You can check out all these guys on their socials, being down in the description. And you expect to see them in the coming episodes in the future. Thanks for watching.
Cheers.
Thanks, guys.